Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, providing real-world tools for transforming daily life. You like that? Providing real-world tools for transforming daily life.
Nice.
We're working on subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
But you can write up on the chat board if you like that one. Real-world tour. Wait. Providing real-world tools for transforming daily life. If you like that, let me know. Hey, it's Makeover Monday. It's Makeover Monday, and when do you guys hear my Makeover Monday? Every Monday, we just sort of like we tweak, we work on ourselves, we let go of something that wasn't good we did last week, and we pull up our. I was about to say pull up our pants. We pull up our pants and we say, okay, this week I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to let go of this. I'm going to start doing this. We make little commitments, weekly commitments of how we want to improve the quality of our life. So here's my Makeover Monday. If you want to join in, you can. I mentioned it last week. No more downtime for the ears this week. Every time I'm walking around or going for a drive in the car, or even this morning when I walked to the shower, I've got my little earbuds in. And I'm listening. This is what I'm listening to.
Mahabharata,
Ramayana, and the same author, Krishna Dharma, did the first canto, but like more told in story. And so I've just been keeping these going. Now, if you live in a place not upstate where you're always online, like I can't get online a lot because the signal's so weak. So there's so many good YouTube videos of lectures and etc. So, but I'm doing it just stuff saved on my Audible account. So I have those 3 books and I play them constantly. And I tell you, already this morning, just listening to the Bhagavatam already, I was like, yes, it really just refines. The mind's got so much downtime and it always goes to the mundane, like real dumb stuff. I find real base stuff, and it just gives it a little lift. And then you remember that in the course of the day. And that's sort of what I'm working on. It's going to be an experiment. If you'd like to join me, I encourage you.
All right. I've been, sticking with the chapter a day.
Chapter a day of the Gita.
Chapter a day of the Bhagavad Gita. And you know what's a nice way to read it? Here's a what did you call it? A tool for, what was it again?
Providing real-world tools for transforming daily life.
Okay, here's a real world tool, right? And I remember that when we brought this up, a bunch of people said, okay, we're going to read a chapter a day. You read it out loud, right? Even if you're all alone, you read that chapter out loud, and you read it like you're reading it on the radio or something. Like you read it as nicely as you can. You ever do that, Raghu?
Yeah, I do.
You just read it. It's this way. This way, you have to read every word and concentrate on it.
I got news for you, Kaustubha. You don't even know this, but I got into chanting chapters from the Bhagavad Gita from you.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. You and I think Krishna Chaitanya from our band.
Oh, yeah.
I remember you guys chanting chapters when I was young, and I was like, I want to do that.
Okay.
It's amazing that when you do something good or bad, actually, that there's someone taking note. And
Okay.
it's going to influence them down the line. Whether you do something good or bad, it's influencing other people and you don't even aware of it. I think I saw you chanting chapters once and I was like, oh, that's cool.
Mm.
And that could have been like, I was 23 or something like that.
Right. Long time ago.
Krishna Chaitanya, our bass player for Shelter, he used to always chant chapters. And I think I did the same thing. I was like, okay, I can do that.
It doesn't take long, but when you read it and you read it even like you're reading it to Krishna in your heart or whatever, just like read it as nicely as you can. And that keeps your mind really attentive to it. Sega is saying that his wife asked him to read her the Gita out loud and he felt something magical. It totally makes a difference. It does. I was just reading it to my wife out loud just yesterday, It's kind of like it feels like Kartik because it's Purushottam month,
Yeah.
And you make these little disciplines and just reading. She was cooking, I was reading it. It's such a nice mood, So anyway, I was enjoying that.
Thank God we went to India this year because this is the first time I'm not going on pilgrimage in a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little
Antsy.
I'm getting a little antsy, misty-eyed, sad.
Well, you know what you got to do, Raghunath.
I'm just gonna create Vrindavan here.
Okay, that's good.
Think about that.
I think that's great. I was going to make another suggestion. Is that next weekend you come down for the kirtan that we had in Washington Square Park yesterday? Super nice. Get in that car, drive on down.
You were at the kirtan. It was nice.
It was great.
I heard you met a lot of Zoomers.
I met others. I met Zoomers. Others were coming out of the woodwork. It was just like one after another. People I never met. People that you and I have never met were just coming up and saying, "Oh, yeah."
That's why they call them the others.
That's
you
why
never meet them. They're sneaking around, just
Yeah.
listening, and then going back into their apartments.
Yeah, but others. Rich Mancuso came. Also known as the
famous golfer.
What do you say?
The famous golfer.
Well, famous. I was going to say evil golfer.
The evil golfer, we call him.
Evil golfer. He was I met so many really great people. It was a real joy to meet them. I met people from that project in Puerto Rico. Plentitude.
They're wonderful.
We got to really talk with those people and find out more about what they're doing.
Ready. Let's go.
Collaborate.
Let's go to Plentitude. I want their papayas.
Yeah. And and at the book table that they had set up at the kirtan, they were passing out these. You see that? It's the Wisdom of the Sages postcard.
Oh,
yeah. And on the other side, it has all this information. It has Apple Podcast reviews, and it mentions that at one point in history, we were rated #1 in religion and spirituality on
at
Apple
one
Podcast.
point in history,
yeah, things like that, and where you can find it and stuff like that. And people were asking for this. So if you want, like say you live anywhere and you would like to pass these out to people, give them to friends, or if you have a yoga studio, you want these, just write to Wisdom of the Sages 108 at gmail.com and we'll send you the files for this and you can pass them out.
Oh, that's great.
We'll get them printed.
Postcards or the files
we'll send you the files. And maybe someday we could get it together. We can send the postcards, or at least for now we can send the files.
We can give you a printing project if you email us.
Yeah.
Where you can invest your own.
But you
money.
you can do this at like Staples or those kind of places. Any place that prints out, you can send them those
nice
files.
gesture. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it. And a lot of people want something to give to people, so then this is a good way to do it. All right.
I've been having Krishna conscious dreams lately.
There you go, Raghu. That's because of all that hearing you're doing.
Maybe. But the last 2 nights I've been dreaming I've been in kirtan. A matter of fact, I woke up chanting kirtan yesterday.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and today I was just like with some I was a brahmachari. I dreamt I was a brahmachari and I was doing something kirtan-ish.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's dive into the Bhagavatam. We left off at the last verse of the second canto, chapter 3, and with the last verse, which was verse 24. And then we were talking about the offenses, or sort of like the rules and the regulations to chant better, to make it more effective. Just like in the United States, the rule is you drive on the right. That's one of the rules. And you know what that rule does? It doesn't take away your freedom. It enhances your freedom. It makes you get to where you're going actually faster. Right. We tend to think like a rule is going to keep me back and hold me down. No, The rule is to enhance freedom. And if everybody follows those rules, then things work fast. You can go 100 miles per hour if you wanted to, and the other cars won't even hit you because they're on the other side of the road. So that's one of the rules of driving. So there's rules to make your chanting more effective, or else the great sages say you can chant for lifetimes and have no effect, or you can just not chant at all, or you can chant like one syllable of one mantra and have you become completely liberated. So Kaustubha was saying that last week, that the way they were written, because language changes over time, and and we're going to make this point also too, because a lot of people practicing bhakti says you can't change stuff. You shouldn't change stuff. Don't change things. Don't change the words. But what do you think we're doing when we're explaining things anyway? We're changing the words. We're putting them in a local dialect, so to speak, to sort of update them so people can understand them. Just like if I'm explaining it to my 6-year-old as opposed to an 18-year-old, as opposed to a scientist, you're going to change the words. But the real thing is you're not changing the essence of the teachings, and that's what we want to put out there. Kaustubha was reframing these in a very, very cool way, and I that's what I do all the time. I'm always changing the words, but that's how we become effective teachers. Is you understand who you're speaking to, and you speak to them in their language. Come on, right?
Yeah, I mean. I get the concern, right? We should, there's two sides to it, right? We need to be careful that there's a lot of importance given to handing down these teachings without changing them. Yeah. So a lot of care has to go into how we teach yoga, how we teach bhakti. But at the same time, that's balanced with the need to present it in a way according to the common time, and the time and the people that you're speaking with, so that they actually understand the real message. So Prabhupada encourages disciples to do that. He would often say, take this, study what I've given you, and then he would use the phrase, explain it in your own words, right?
There
in
you
your
go.
own words.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do.
And here's another thing, Kaustubha. Yeah. Because you want to have a chastity.
Chastity.
You want a chassis. You want a chastity.
David Cassidy.
To the chastity. That was Cher's daughter, Chastity. Right?
Is it chastity or chastity?
Chastity.
Yeah.
Chastity.
Yeah. You want a chastity to the previous masters. Now I lost my whole train of thought. Forget it. I had something very profound and wonderful to say.
Well, that we need to have that. One wants to be chaste to the previous. Okay, all right.
Remember. Okay.
All right, then we'll just get into it. But why don't we read that verse again? Text 24. It's a real kind of famous verse,
Yeah. Certainly that heart is steel framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Right. Tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end. So it's saying if your hairs aren't standing on end, if you're not feeling ecstasy when you're chanting, then maybe your heart's like in a steel box, a cage. And so what is going on? And so Kaustubha is going to give us his explanation of these offenses to help us tweak our chanting. Japa hacks, we call them.
Okay. Real world tools.
Okay, let's try.
And I think okay, what's going on? You choking on your mushroom drink?
Sorry. You go on.
But I think this is right here. We can also understand that this is kind of, if you want to talk about the contrast between, let's say, religion and spirituality, interpreting it that way. It's not just that you accept the faith, but the faith is supposed to deepen your practice, and the practice is supposed to cause some type of transformation. And so it's saying here that it's not just here Prabhupada said, this is from that commentary to verse 24. He says, it is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, by doing this practice of bhakti, one must manifest the change of heart, right? The change of heart has to be there. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, and if there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel frame, for it is not melted even when there's the chanting of the holy name. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties. And if they are properly performed, now so what makes it proper? And that's where these quote unquote 10 offenses come in, right? But if it is properly performed, there will be the following reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes and standing of the hairs of the body, like goosebumps. He says these are the natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, this very elevated stage of spiritual practice that occurs just before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, or love of Godhead. And then he goes on to say that if this isn't happening, if these symptoms aren't manifesting, it may be considered to be due to the offenses only.
So this is what you're about to say, Kaustubha, is like the most important thing we could hear right now. Because a lot of us, especially on Zoom, we've all made like a commitment to chant japa. But how we chant it, the intention behind it, the thoughts that are running through our mind about it, what the goal with it is, where it might be askew, because I know I'm not crying, I'm not rolling on the floor, hairs are not standing on end. What am I doing wrong? Please instruct me.
What do we need to focus?
Arjuna. You are like Krishna. Please fill my cup.
I am simply inspired by your devotional enthusiasm, just sharing a few thoughts. But I also want to share this. And I think this can be a perspective shifter right now, what I'm about to share, okay? Or let's say a clarifier, a tightening the focus. Now, there's a verse from the Puranas, from the Padma Purana. It says, Sampradaya Vihina Ye Mantraste Nishpala Mataha. So Nishpala. Pala means?
Fruit.
Right. I was going to hit Mara with that, but you.
I was like, I got it.
So Nishpala means Mara?
The ripened fruit?
Oh, no.
That was a good guess.
Mara. No, Mara.
No fruit.
It means no fruit. Yeah, it means without fruit. Without Nishpala.
It's almost German.
Nishpala. There's all these connections between the Sanskrit language and so many other languages. So yeah, it negates it. It's a prefix that negates it. So without fruit. So sampradaya vihinaye, mantras te nishpala mataha, that if the mantra that is not received in the disciplic succession, that's not received in the lineage, through the bona fide lineage, that mantra not received through the bona fide lineage does not produce results. Okay, so it's saying that you receive a mantra through the lineage, and if you just that's to a lot of people, I think that might sound, come on, you're chanting the same syllables that I'm chanting, because you've been initiated into this lineage, it's somehow magically different. Yes. But and yes, it is. It's magic. But and I don't want to say that there isn't anything mystical about it. I don't want to, let's just put that to the side, and let's talk about the more tangible, or like, let's say there may be transrational reasoning of why this mantra is powerful, received in lineage. But let's just look at the rational reasoning.
Great word, by the way.
Transrational.
I'm stealing that.
Because if I say irrational, right, there's something that's rational, and then if you say, which means it's based on reason and logic. And then if I say irrational, it means it's unreasonable or it's illogical. But transrational
means it.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a great word.
Transrational. Let's use that. I'm coining that phrase right now. Okay.
It's like underwhelming.
Okay, I like that.
Overwhelming. Yeah. It's like underwhelming.
Transrational. So, but let's talk about the rational side of it, and that is this. And within Indian philosophical circles, for instance, when they speak of knowledge, they say that knowledge has four components: the knower, the known, the knowledge itself, and then the process of understanding the knowledge. All of that is included in knowledge. And so when the mantra is given, you also need to be given the process to access the mantra, right? So if I receive the syllables of the mantra, but I don't receive the process, which involves my entire lifestyle and my conceptions and my sentiments, then I won't access that mantra. And I'll just be chanting syllables that like, it sounds like the mantra, but I haven't accessed the actual spiritual power of that mantra. And this is part of the transrational thought around mantras, that this mantra is non-different from Krishna, right? That it is not just some syllables, but that it actually is Krishna himself. That's,
Well, Mr. if I'm hearing it from you, if I was listening to Joe Rogan,
yeah,
and then I heard, oh, I like Raghunath, I'm going to turn up to Wisdom of the Sages, and you're telling me to chant this mantra. Now, is it in parampara? Or do I have to be dutifully initiated to have the fruit of the mantra?
By all means, begin to chant it. But when one has a conviction that this is what I want to do with my life, my goal has become to develop love for Sri Krishna, to develop love for God and every living being through the practice of Bhakti-yoga. Then one seeks out, this is how the practice is laid out by the great teachers of it. Then you seek out a guide, a mentor, a guru that will, and this is the point that I want to make. What is a guru? Is it this, charismatic figure that smiles a lot and has the right look and can touch me on the forehead and zap me into? No.
I meant no.
Yes. But no, it's this person that has become qualified through their studies and understanding, and their ability to present those teachings, as well as embodied it in their lifestyle and their character and the depth of realization that they can guide me in the process of chanting this mantra. And they understand that to access this mantra, to fully connect with this mantra, it means I have to have the right sentiments, the right conceptions, and the right lifestyle. And so therefore they're giving me a wide range of instructions that have to do with changing my entire life. And when I say changing it doesn't necessarily mean like radically changing it, but like readjusting, realigning everything, so that I can chant this mantra purely, deeply, with an absorbed mind. Okay?
It's really just tweaking that intention, and then it changes everything.
Yeah.
From that. We don't even have to grossly change even what we're doing, but when you change the intention, then sometimes a few steps forward, you end up changing things on your own.
Right.
No, because
right.
But I asked the same question to Radha Swami once.
What was that?
And the idea, from what I understood,
what was the question?
The question is the when you hear these statements that you have to receive the mantra in disciplic succession,
yeah,
is it a metaphysical thing, or is it because the teachers or the lineage is explaining that refined nuance of intention, how you chant that mantra? Because they're going to explain, this is what the mantra actually means.
Right.
This is how you use the mantra. This is what you don't do with the mantra, stuff like that. And because they give that instruction, the potency is there as well. Whether something metaphysical
was your question, or that was his answer?
That was sort of that was my sort of statement to him in a question form. Like, is this why?
Okay.
And I
his
think,
answer?
I can't remember, but I think he gave me a thumbs up. I think
okay. You were on the right track.
Yeah. I don't want to quote him.
You got the most important instruction on the most fundamental and aspect of the
and I can't
practice,
remember.
And I forgot it.
No,
but I think he gave me a thumbs up.
That, at least that's part of the reason he said.
Yeah, right. And that's my point. There may be a transrational But that's the rational part.
That's the rational explanation. Good.
Okay. So
By the
now,
way, we did not read the invocation. I don't know if it's too late to go back, but
it's never too late to go back.
okay, let's do it. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being. Unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. And to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmadatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, so let's dive into these 10 offenses. Now, do we want to read the ones we already read Friday? Because we got like...
I think let's just go through them all 10. Yeah, we can do them all, I think. Just
all right.
So the 10 offenses in the chanting of the holy name is generally how they're referred to. And I'm saying that we could, to help us understand, we could say it like more like this. The 10 important considerations.
You've even changed the name.
I haven't changed. I'm just saying, here's a way of looking at it. 10 important considerations in the meditation of the Maha Mantra. Or even you could say like 10 important considerations to receive the power of that mantra, right? So that power flows through. Okay. You want to read the first one in
I'll read it.
Old school?
I'll read the old school one, then you sort of update it.
All right.
To blaspheme devotees who dedicated their lives to the propagating the holy name of the Lord. How would you reframe that? To blaspheme the devotees who dedicated their lives.
One has to be very respectful and appreciative of people in general, particularly those who are sincerely dedicated to practicing bhakti.
I get it.
All right.
Yeah, you did.
It has the right sentiments, right? If this holy name,
it's the biggest one, Kaustubha. It's the biggest one.
That's why they put it up there first, right?
Yeah.
If the name itself is God in the form of sound, how can you come close to someone if you're saying all kind of negative things about people that are dear to that person, right? If someone wanted to be Raghunath's friend, but they were just like insulting his friends and his family and his children, you just cut off the whole process. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Now the problem I find is like a lot of times our within a community, even with people who've been around for a while, they make dumb mistakes. I mean, I've been around for a reasonable time. I make dumb mistakes. When you find somebody that you're sort of looking up to in a lot of ways and they do something dumb, don't zero in on that dumb action and blow that up and make that's what they are. It's the wrong type of zooming in. Instead, zoom out and see what their whole life is like. See what their whole life is like. And Prabhupada used to use that Vedic quote, the moon is so beautiful, but someone could criticize the moon because it's got a little speck on it. And say, the moon's beautiful, but look at all those little specks on it.
Right.
Like devotees sometimes will say something or act in a way that it might not jive with you. Zoom out and see the greatest picture of that person and say, look what this person has done with their life. Look at all the people this person has touched with their life. Look at where this person lives. Why focus in on one little detail? It's just the nature of the conditioned critical mind to zoom in on one blemish and blow that up. And it's a trick of Maya, people. That is a trick of Maya to ruin your spiritual life. Focusing on the blemishes. What do you think about that, Mara? Don't focus on my blemishes, please. It's true, though, because I have a tendency to criticize, so I'll go right for that blemish. See?
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Okay. Number 2.
I thought you were going to be like, that is a yes.
No, it is. I'm just, as much as this is my point, is that we got about 2 minutes left for each of these 10 offenses. So
Okay.
if we have extended nectar commentary, then we will never make it through.
2, to consider the names of the demigods like Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu.
One has to have the clear understanding of Krishna as the root of all existence, as it is explained in a very straightforward way in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
Very straightforward.
Yeah, it's very
It can
straightforward.
be confusing. It can be confusing because there's so many powerful beings.
Right. Well, it's kind of like saying, like, if I were a leaf that got disconnected from a tree and I was drying up and I wanted to reconnect and I tried to reconnect with another leaf.
Another
It wouldn't
tree,
work.
having another branch of another
Yeah.
tree.
But you got to reconnect to that root because that's what's going to feed you. And
Yeah.
so ultimately, Krishna's the root. We have complete reverence for Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma and appreciation for them, love for them. But we understand that Krishna is the root of all existence, and that's unique. And by connecting to that root, we naturally connect to Lord Shiva, to Lord Brahma, and to every living being. So that's a conception that needs to be clarified, and the guru is meant to help the disciple understand that clearly.
And that is going to help you chant that mantra better.
That's right.
Number 3, to disobey the orders of the guru, of the spiritual master.
Never disobey the order.
Never.
Sounds heavy, right?
Sounds like he's got me in a cage.
But here's another way of saying it. One has to have deep faith in their spiritual teachers as representatives who embody the wisdom of the sacred texts and a willingness to receive their guidance, right? If I made this formal vow and I entered into this process where I said, I've looked at your lifestyle, I see that you're a person that's chanting this mantra and it's working. It's manifesting in you through all kind of beautiful realizations and qualities. And I want to be like that. And I want you to instruct me how to chant this mantra. Well, then I need to be willing to follow their instructions in order to do it. You know? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Number 4.
4.
To blaspheme. Just even that word, blaspheme.
I know, it's heavy. It's got a
Cool.
heavy religious kind of,
Yeah. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Like, what?
those texts written by realized people that are consistent with those teachings.
Yeah.
One has to have deep faith in the sacred text of the Bhakti tradition, like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, you won't have that inspiration and the right conceptions and the right convictions, the right determination. Okay?
And don't blaspheme them while you're at it.
Definitely don't blaspheme them.
5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination.
So there are many verses
To be imagination, is that even proper English, Mara?
to be imaginary.
To be imaginary, to be imagination.
Yeah. To be exaggerated, you could say, right?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
you know, you read these verses that say these incredible things that can come from the chanting of this mantra. Yeah, well, that's just to get us to do it. It's not quite that much, you know, but it's good for you. You know,
It's good, but it's not all that.
Yeah.
That's
So-
the best.
One has to have deep faith in the value of the practice of meditating on the mantra and that its potential is unlimited, that it ultimately grants one pure love of God and every living being and the divine ecstasies that come from that. Okay.
Number 6, to give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. A lot of people ask, well, isn't that what you're doing? Please
No,
explain.
Well, because we're not doing that, but we're hearing it from the source itself. So I can't make it up. So one has to understand the truth about the mantra through the sacred texts rather than making it up themselves.
Just like what? Chant this mantra, it'll make you happy or something like that?
Well, in other words,
What's an example of someone doing that?
of someone,
Give some interpretation of the holy name.
I might, for instance, I might say that the goal of chanting the holy name is to obtain impersonal liberation, right?
Okay.
No, it's something much more than that. So to understand it properly, we can't interpret it ourselves. It's something that comes down to us, not something that we climb up to.
All right. I muted my nose. I just sneezed really loud. 6, 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. That means you're doing something bad, but you feel like, well, I'm going to chant. It'll make up for it.
This,
is that what it means?
Yeah, like this is an important topic that comes up later in the Bhagavatam is this idea of atonement.
Right.
Right. That like for instance, I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And the idea was that you could, on occasion, enter into the confessional.
Yeah.
And there would be a priest on the other side of the wall, and there'd be like some kind of grating that you'd speak through. And you would confess your sins, and the priest, on behalf of, I guess, the Pope and ultimately God, would forgive you of those sins. And then you would go off, and then, what that can do is breed a kind of understanding, like, well, I can do whatever I want as long as I go in there and I confess again.
I paid my dues, basically.
I paid my dues.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like on the strength of my confessing, I can commit, any kind of activity and then kind of become free from the implications of that.
The idea is we just stop performing problematic activities. That's we confess them, but then we have to stop doing them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and there's talk about that. It's kind of like one analogy that's used is because in the Vedic literature, there's also all kinds of information about atonement for one's bad karma. But bhakti is different than that. Bhakti, the idea, the motivation changes that I just don't want to, I want to free myself from the results of my bad activities. It's like, no. And even if one does atonement, they compare that to like, you're pulling out like a weed, but you're not getting down to the root. So it just grows right back.
Nice.
Right? So you got to get down to the root of it. So here's how I translated this. One has to approach the practice of chanting as a way of purifying their heart, a way of overcoming being ruled by their lower nature, rather than a way of supporting their lower nature. Right? So this isn't...
Ooh,
this isn't,
I like that. I
right?
like it a lot.
Yeah, like this isn't about getting free from bad karma. This is about changing my very self, transforming my very self so that I have even no desire to act that way anymore. And if I use it the other way, it's actually supporting my lower nature rather than countering my lower nature or purifying myself from my lower nature.
And it's not just Catholicism. There's all practices within what we call Hinduism that does the same thing.
Yeah.
This atonement for bad behavior. You'll overcome it. We're not interested in like getting rid of that bad karma. We're interested in just serving Krishna. Krishna will take care of all the karma for us.
And if I think that I'm going to, so let's go back to where we started. You have to receive the mantra in the sampradaya, in the lineage, from a guru. That means you have to receive all the teachings from it. Otherwise, the power of that mantra really will not transform you. It's like the sun is shining out there. The mantra itself is powerful, but I'm not receptive to its power. Like if the sun is shining, but I'm inside, I'm not going to get the power of it. So if I'm chanting this mantra every day, but I'm thinking, oh, well, this is very good because, and this is maybe to a Western person, this sounds a little bit more unusual, but like to someone raised in a Hindu family, this might sound quite like this is the kind of thing that we do sometimes. We do certain puja or certain this so that we become free from our bad karma. And then we don't worry too much about how we behave because we know that we have a process that we have faith will free us from those negative effects. This is here the teachings are saying this is not the way that Bhakti-yogis approach it. And if you approach it this way, the real benefit of that name you'll never actually experience. You approach this to purify your heart so that you can become a receptacle of divine love, and that's its purpose, right?
Yeah, it's good. Number 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruit of activities, karma kanda.
Karma kanda. Again, yes, similar idea that here it's not just here it's a little different, but same kind of vein. the previous one was about you don't chant this mantra to become free of bad karma. This one is like you don't chant this mantra to get good karma,
Right.
right? You don't get it. So all the things in this world that I want, the fruitive activities means I do an activity because I want the material result of that, which is taught in the Vedas, in the part of the Vedas called the Karma Kunda, the section that teaches how to live a pious life and live and get materialistically good results from it.
And
This isn't that.
Bhagavatam comes right out of the gates and says, this is
Yeah.
this Kaitava Dharma. It's not actually real Dharma.
Yeah.
It's a Dharma has to bring you to something high, to pure love of God, or you're off track.
That's right.
So, yeah.
So here's another way of phrasing it. One has to clearly understand that the purpose of this meditation is to develop true unconditional love for God and every living being, and not for any materialistic purpose. If you approach the mantra in this way, it will bear fruit, that spiritual fruit, that love of God. And if you approach it the other way, it will be ineffective. Okay.
Number 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. So some people also, they like, well, what does that mean? Aren't we sort of faithless and you're giving us a class? What does that mean?
It has to do with a person's receptivity, so even if someone's willing to hear you out,
Right.
Sincerely,
Right.
then that's some level of faith, is it not? And so here's how I kind of rephrase that. With a deep sentiment for just how sacred Krishna's names and pastimes are, one has to carefully consider who they explain the esoteric side of bhakti to. Because a lot of people will not be able to understand it and are likely to respond in a way that only further removes them from understanding. Right? If I go and try to explain something very esoteric and sacred about Krishna says pastimes with the gopis, right? And then people have no context for understanding that, and a mind that's already kind of geared towards misunderstanding it, or even mocking it, or whatever it might be, then my sharing something too esoteric, it's putting it this way: share the rational side of bhakti and not the transrational side, right?
There you go again.
Yeah,
Use the word twice in a program here.
Share that part that that one can follow logically, and not that part that requires a deeper faith. Because only the person with that deeper faith is approaching it with the sentiments that will be helpful. Okay,
that was good. Number 10, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter.
Oh boy, this is one we really got to think about in life,
It's like I'm chanting, but then this happened. I'm chanting, and then this problem arose. I'm chanting. Maybe this chanting doesn't work at all.
Or I was thinking of it more like this. It's like I'm chanting, and it's a great part of my life. But I also have this other part of my life, and I'm just really not ready to give that up. Right? Maintaining material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Right? I get it, but still I'm maintaining this stuff. Still I seek a little bit of happiness through these other things, even though I know that's not where the real spiritual happiness lies. Right. So one has to really appreciate how special the gift of bhakti is, and demonstrate that appreciation through letting go of the idea that happiness comes through external material things.
I was just hearing about Makeover Monday Bhagavatam this morning before class.
Well, I was going to say that your Makeover Monday is just this. It's right on this, right? It's like, I'm not going to hear these other things.
Yeah, because those other things, sometimes it's news or politics or some other, even I'm like listening to other books right now, but I'm not, they're not like pure bhakti books, but I'm extracting something from them. But I'm not listening to any of them this week. And because of it, first thing in the morning, I heard this morning how Krishna will sometimes put us in incredible distress so that he becomes our only shelter. And the sages were asking this question: why is there so much distress? Because Krishna is giving special care for those devotees, so they can really get focused in on him. And I'm thinking, oh man, that just changes everything. That just change when he's taking special favor on you. So I'm thinking, if you're attached to some of these other things, it's because you still feel like, well, these things are actually giving me some pleasure,
Right.
you know. But when you actually, you
got to let go of one thing to grab fully onto the other thing.
To fully let go. So sometimes Krishna takes away those things.
Oh.
Or sometimes Krishna gives us, the material world gives us a little pinch, and he uses that karma so we can really take shelter of him.
Now there's 11th one kind of tacked on.
We call it the postscript.
Okay.
P.S. It's also an offense.
P.S. There's another offense we need to talk about too.
Yeah, listen. You thought you were good with 10. Here's one other one we're going to throw at you. It's also an offense to be inattentive while chanting.
To be inattentive while chanting, which is
Inattentive.
commonly what we really struggle with in this meditation, right? It's so hard not to be inattentive. One must really endeavor to respect the mantra as non-different from God and approach this meditation with focused care and attention. Right? Even if the key is that we're always trying harder. You know, we're always trying. We're not allowing ourselves to be inattentive and saying, yeah, well, that's kind of what it is. I'm going to chant my 16 rounds. I'm going to be inattentive through it. I know I am. And that's okay. No, you really have to be trying. It's as if you're relating to God and you invite God into your home and then you're like not paying any attention.
How about you're chanting japa and your phone is not even in the room? You're chanting japa.
Yeah, that sounds Makeover Monday right there. Phone is a big problem.
What's that movie my kids just watched? I had my kids watch that movie yesterday, but I didn't watch it yet. It's on Netflix about social media. Mara, do you know what I'm talking about? Social Dilemma. Social Dilemma. Netflix.
I need some social media to prevent me from watching Netflix. It goes both ways.
Oh, wow. Anyone who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema.
Prema, love, pure love of God. So here's a way of rephrasing that. Unless we are really trying to embrace the above mentioned ideas, we are really just bhakti yogas in name only. Right?
Yes.
But if we are really sincerely trying to understand and follow this practice, this understanding and way of life, then we may quickly be granted the grace of achieving life's highest goal, the awakening of divine love for God and every living being. Krishna Prema. Right?
Nice.
So that's, if I read that, let me read all those just right through in one and see if this is something that helps us, inspire us to chant more attentively and purely and properly and powerfully. Okay? 10 important considerations of the meditation, the Maha Mantra. One has to be very respectful and appreciative of people, particularly those who are sincerely dedicated to practicing bhakti. One has to have a clear understanding of Krishna as the root of all existence, as it is explained in a very straightforward way in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. One has to have deep faith in their spiritual teachers as representatives who embody the wisdom of the sacred text and a willingness to receive their guidance. One has to have deep faith in the sacred texts of the Bhakti tradition like the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. One has to have deep faith in the value of the practice of meditating on the mantra and that its potential is unlimited. One has to understand the truth about the mantra through the sacred text rather than trying to make it up themselves. One has to approach the practice of chanting as a way of purifying their heart, a way of overcoming being ruled by their lower nature, rather than a way of supporting their lower nature. One has to clearly understand that the purpose of this meditation is to develop true unconditional love for God and every living being, and not for any materialistic purpose. With a deep sentiment for just how sacred Krishna's names and pastimes are, one has to carefully consider who they explain the esoteric side of bhakti to, because a lot of people will not be able to understand it and are likely to respond in a way that only further removes them from understanding. One has to really appreciate how special the gift of bhakti is and demonstrate that appreciation through letting go of the idea that happiness comes through external material things. One must really endeavor to respect the mantras not different from God and approach this meditation with focus, care, and attention. Unless we are really trying to embrace the above mentioned ideas, we're just bhakti yogis in name only, But if we're really sincerely trying to understand and follow this practice, understanding and way of life, then we may quickly be granted the grace of achieving this life's highest goal, the awakening of divine love for God and every living being.
Lovely.
You can work with that, Raghu?
Yeah. I'm working with them right now.
All right.
That's
Yeah.
important. I think it's important to hear them. I think it's important to sort of rephrase it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, so we're not saying don't, throw it out, change it in the books, recite it differently. We're not saying that, but this is just to help us understand a little bit more what's being said in these 10 offenses.
That's good.
It's a serious practice, Bhakti-yogi, it brings us into contact with powerful sources of spiritual energy, but it's the right lifestyle, the right conceptions, and the right sentiments that they're like the conductor of that energy. And if those aren't in place, the surge is blocked.
And I think what you did was so nice because no one wants to saw down a tree with a dull blade. You want to this is to sharpen the blade. So the same work you're putting in, okay, I'm going to chant every day, or I'm going to do my worship or my spiritual practice or on a regular basis. How do I refine it so it's more effective? The same amount of effort, but more effective. I think that's what we're shooting for.
Right.
That's
good. Nope.
You have helped me so much today.
You are helping me every day, Raghu.
Every day. Look at baby Joe is dancing.
Aww.
Thanks everybody for joining us on Wisdom of the Sages, our daily dose of Srimad Bhagavatam. Or as we put it, providing real world tools for transforming daily life.
All right.
If, let's see, Mara, is our Wisdom of the Sages retreat filled up?
Yes, but we have an overflow list.
We have an overflow.
Yeah.
What does
So
that
if
mean?
you're interested, well, not everybody has sent in money.
Oh, they got to sign in, or else it doesn't count.
Is that what this is all about?
It's all about money.
Once you send in the money,
Why isn't
then your
that one of the offenses?
registration is secured.
Okay.
Well, we're about to announce something else tomorrow. We're doing a Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Colombia, South America, in January. 12 days in our friend's ashram. Because
Is that confirmed? Like,
it's happening.
okay, well, of course, they're going to have to allow us into Colombia first, but we're assuming that happens.
Well,
right?
if they allow us into Colombia, then we're going.
Okay.
There's one little
Hitch.
There's one little hiccup. We can't get into the country.
But we're
Or
hopeful.
Once we get in, we can't get out. No, but I think they're doing very good with COVID, but we're going to work and figure that out.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, hey. Oh, okay. Continue that. I'm sorry.
That's it. What?
Okay. I was going to say on Patreon, I think today we're going to drop something. We're dropping our question and answer, rooftop question and answer that we did on Saturday at the Bhakti Center.
Saturday's Bhakti Center one-day class that I gave. Kaustubha came and joined me for Q&A, and we did our Q&A, and we're going to put that live. Not live, but on Patreon. Patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, community-supported podcasts. Thanks, everybody. Also, Q&A questions this Saturday. Just write them into Mara. We got some great questions.
Yeah.
We have to write more questions, or else Harshal Gore is going to hog it all every week. This guy is so sincere on a spiritual path, and he's got so many questions.
Also, Sweet Baby Krishna reading tomorrow night at 8 p.m., right?
Tuesday night, Sweet Baby Krishna. I'm excited for it. 8 o'clock.
A lot happening on Patreon this week.
But there's always one. Sarka always wakes up at 2 in the morning or something and tunes on. Vivi used to do that, and then I think she's given up.
Sarka tunes in for Sweet Baby Krishna at 2 a.m. in Prague.
Yeah.
I tip my hat to Sarka.
And all the Californians show up.
I offer my respects to Sarka. That's impressive.
There's Isabel Billada. She's getting me psyched to dance.
Leslie is winning it today. She's
Where's Mara? Come on, Mara. Let's see you dance. Fantastic. to really get. I'm gonna do the 10 offenses of not dancing properly.
Okay.
Got to get the elbows up and down. You got to get a chair with a little spring on it.
Now we got Bhakti Louie. He's steady over there, but I would like to see the Bhakti-yogi's dog dance.
I'm looking at the whole fourth row. We got Bhakti Louie, Nicole, Sophie Mo, Joe Adamo. Let's get those arms moving. There we go. There we go. There we go. There. Even baby Joe is losing his material mind. He's a very fortunate baby, this baby Joe.